Napoleon getting beaten by the Brits, you know. We had not half a chance of having rapping, and poetry was Victor Hugo and Lamartine, and not, you know, we're gonna go see Belle and we go to Winter Wonderland, and none of that. So I think actually it might well have to do with Benjamin, but we'll get to that. So this young man of mine, if I may say, he could be my grandson, don't you worry. His work, I got it all from the net actually, because it was really extraordinary. He worked with thousands of children and hundreds of teachers every year. He visits primary and secondary schools, delivering workshops for staff and students. He is a poet in residence in schools. I didn't know that existed, so there you go. He is an editor of to date 14 poetry anthology written by the young people that he teaches. So the children write poetries and that gets published. He also involved, as you just saw with rap, music into his teaching of poetry. He's an expert in incorporating rap into the process of learning. Please give him a very warm welcome. I call him Christian Foley.
Thank you very much.
I don't know whether it's working.
Shall I get started?
You can get started.
All right. So, I have an interesting job. I'm a poet in residence. That means that my job is to work across the world with educational institutions, primary schools, secondary schools, prisons, hospitals, and I help young people to express their words and express their inner world and articulate their lives. How did I get into this? I was a school child. I grew up in the Channel Islands, which weren't kind of a hotbed of hip-hop. You know? This tiny little crescent of islands near France, and there was nothing going on there. I started writing when I was in year 3 or year 4, and I used to love coming up with these rhymes and putting them together. And as I went to secondary school, I had this expectation that everything would change and this whole avenue of creativity would open up at secondary. And then I was disappointed, because the way that we studied poetry, we studied it like an autopsy. We looked at how the poem had died, and we tried to pick it apart and analyze what was wrong with the poem. And that was not the way that I wanted to explore poetry. I thought that poetry should be spoken out loud. I thought it should be vital, it should be living, it should be interacted. You know, I always try and do poems with children rather than at them. I think it's a dialogue and a collaboration. But it changed when I got to year 9. This new English teacher came in and he said, "What are you interested?" He was the first teacher to ask us, "What are you interested in?" And I said, "Well, you know, I love writing poems and raps, and I want to perform them." And so he listened to my stuff and he says, "Well, what you need a poet. I'm going to try get us a poet. There's not many poets in the Channel Islands, so we had to fly one over." And I say, "Okay, we're going to meet a poet." And he said, "Before the poet comes to your school, you've got to make sure you're ready. You've got to give him something. You've got to give him a demo." So I said to my teacher, "What's a demo?" He said, "It's a little CD. You're going to go record it." So my teacher took me to a youth club and we recorded a 4-track demo, some poems and some raps, to get ready for the poet. And the poet arrived. It was this huge school event. There were maybe 60, 80 children. And we were in a circle. And the poet stood in the middle and he performed, turning this way and that, captivating everyone. I was nervous at the end. My teacher said, "Go on, go give him the demo." On the demo, I had written my home telephone number on the CD. This is before you had GDPR. I had written that and I gave it to the poet. And he said, "Thank you." In my mind, I'm thinking, he's not going to listen to this. Surely he's going to be too busy to listen to a 14-year-old's demo tape. And the next day passes. I've almost forgotten about the demo. And I'm playing PlayStation in my bedroom. And my mum comes and knocks on the door. And she says, "Someone's on the phone for you." I said, "Who?" She said, It's your friend Ben." I said, "I haven't got a friend called Ben." She says, "Go answer the phone." So I pick it up. And he says, "Hello, Christian, how are you?" In that accent that we all know. I said, "Who's this?" He said, "It's Benjamin Zephaniah." And Benjamin Zephaniah had heard my demo, and he'd seen promise in it, and he had taken the time. In fact, when you go back now to my very first songs on YouTube, 2006, 2007, no one's watching, not even my mum. There's just one comment on every video, and it's Benjamin Zephaniah. And he took the time. So he was taking the time to champion young voices. Even then, I was 14 years old. And since his passing, so many other poets have had similar experiences. And he was doing this behind the scenes. There are many poets like me who aren't standing on a stage and sharing their story, who nonetheless will have that story. But he did more. He didn't just say, oh, I like your poems. He said, I really want you to get involved with the spoken word scene. And he explained what I was doing was spoken word. Before that, no one had explained that to me. I didn't know what spoken word was. And he says, why don't you get involved in some poetry slams? I'm going to arrange them for you. So he arranged for me to perform in London. I was given a fund by the local government of Jersey to fly over and perform where Benjamin Zephaniah was performing at these events. And the year later, he was scheduled to come back to Jersey. But it's a very foggy place because of the sea, and his plane couldn't land. It had to divert back. So rather than cancel his show, he says, let Christian do it. So at 15 years old, I was going out on stage saying, hi, I'm not Benjamin Zephaniah. And what it did is it started my career. By the time I was 18, I was a professional poet. By the time I was 21, I was contacted by a university, Goldsmiths University, and they said, how would you feel about working in the realm of education? We're going to create this role, a hybrid role, where you become a poet, but you're also a teacher. And so you work across all these different places. And that was 11 years ago now. And some of my students, they're in their 20s, and they have become poets themselves. And when we talk about legacy today, I wonder the children that they will teach, and it passes on and on and on. So I am an example of Benjamin Zephaniah's legacy because he took the time to listen to that CD. So I thought, it's really annoying for me today because I've got to go straight away and do another poetry gig. But I did not want to miss this today. So when I found out that I had the opportunity
so much. We're really, really grateful
to come and speak.
To heard that story. What do you think? Give it a try.
We'll finish with a poem.
Yes. Are you going to present to us one of your poems, or are you going to interpret one of Benjamin's? What are you going to do?
I'm going to interpret Benjamin's style, okay, in a way. Okay. So Benjamin was all about the play with language. Language was all about play. It was about interaction. It was about kindness. There was such a thread of kindness in his work. So I'm going to involve you as an audience in this. I'm going to say all you really need is, and you say one kind word, okay? You don't need to move a mountain to rearrange the world, because all you really need is
one kind word.
You don't need to be a superhero or fly like a bird, because all you really need is
one kind word.
And you don't need a microphone. You can say it and be heard, because all you really need is
one kind word.
Because words can be magic. Words can be a cure. Words can be a bandage when your heart is feeling sore. So there's someone around you, maybe your child in your class. How are you doing today? That is all you need to ask. You don't need to move a mountain to rearrange the world, because all you really need is
one kind word.
And words are our legacy. And words as a legacy can flicker, and words can flame, and words can spit fire. I ain't talking about a plane. And words are our legacy. Words can graffiti, words can make art, words can break dance in the jams at the park, because words are a legacy. Words can blow fuses, words can burn cables, words can DJ and scratch turntables, because words are a legacy and they won't be contained. They leap over generations through here and straight to your brain, and once they're in the brain, then a question quizzes you. A question never read, it's a question out the blue. And what this question says in this little interview is he had words, now we have them too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.